Hello, my name is Henry Valenti. I'm a docent at the Tampa Bay History Center. I'm here on behalf of the Museum at Home series on the website for the Tampa Bay History Center. As you can notice, I am wearing an outfit that's kind of dated. This is a typical outfit that a tabaquero, or a Cuban or immigrant cigar worker, would wear in the early 1900s. One thing you might notice that's not very well known nowadays is this beret, which was called a boina in Spanish. And this is actually my grandfather's beret that he wore on a daily basis when he was alive and working in the cigar industry. I was born and raised in Ybor City, where the Latin community was mostly started working in the cigar factories. We had a number of different immigrants come to Tampa to work. The Cubans knew how to make cigars. They were the rollers and had the art and the craftsmanship to be able to make it. Spaniards were usually the ones that did the running of the cigar industries and various jobs inside that were usually the better paid jobs. The Sicilians were working in an area around Orlando in the cane fields and also laying railroad, and they heard about you could make better money and work inside if you came to Tampa and worked in the cigar industry. Of course, most of them were in Europe at the time. The Spaniards and the Sicilians in particular were in the industrial age, where a lot of the peasants were kicked off of the land. They were forced into a peonage system. In Cuba, you had a different kind of oppression. They were a colony of Spain, and because of that, they had no independence in being able to run their own country. In the late 1800s, they were in the throes of an independence movement and revolution to throw off the colonial overlords. Each nationality that was in the immigrant world of Ybor City organized their own clubs. So you had a club for the Cubans, you had a club for the Sicilians, you had a club for the Spaniards, you had a club for the Germans, and you also actually had a club for the Cuban, Afro-Cubans that were in Tampa at the time. So the social clubs were a place that people could gather in the evenings, especially men, not so much the women of the family, but men would go to the clubs after dinner and play cards or dominoes and talk to each other about the latest things going on and politics, which they loved to do a lot. And they also provided cultural outlets. They would have plays, they would have dance presentations, they had picnics on a regular basis and dances. They maintained the culture of each one of the nationalities that were in Tampa at the time. They included not only educational institutions within them, the festivals that they had, the cultural events that they had, and also the health care that was provided by the clubs. They also had a very high respect for education. This man right here is called a lectore, and he was one of the major aspects of educating the working class, who mostly did not have formal education prior to coming into the cigar factories. He would read to them every day that they worked, and usually he would be reading out of newspapers and other literature that had to do with news of the day and local interest to working people. And also, he would read novels to them in the afternoon that were very popular. Between 1887 and 1932, there were major strikes in the cigar industry every 10 years. Those major strikes usually resulted in oppression by the establishment with kidnappings and lynchings and deportations that were all illegal. Because of this, the working class became very strong in their solidarity and also in their need for unionism, and that went throughout all the way up until 1932. What was the results of all of this? Well, because of their militancy and their solidarity, they had a higher than normal standard of living for working people between the 1800s and the 1900s. Not only did they have a good living wage that they worked hard for, but they also became homeowners, which was a very unusual aspect for workers at that time. There is one quote I want to give you because it really reflects a lot on how the workers felt about their life in Ybor City in the early days, and also the attitude that they had. And the workers said this: "We won, you know. I know history will say otherwise, but it is not so. We never surrendered, and we were never beaten." So that is my small presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and understand a little bit better about the immigrant world that was in Ybor City between 1800s and 1900s. If you want to learn more, go to tampabayhistorycenter.org.